Hello, my name is Dr. Joyce Gomez, and I am an associate professor at California State University, Fullerton. Thank you so much for joining me today. The topic of today's chat is fostering phonological awareness. So we're working toward the following learning goals today. The first is to examine some of the processes of emergent literacy. These include cultural, cognitive, linguistic, sensory, and perceptual processes. In addition, we're exploring some approaches to fostering students' phonological awareness. So let's begin by kind of contextualizing what this work might look like. So go ahead and read or decode the following 3 words you see listed here, and just think about the following. What are some of the skills we need to tap into when we're reading? Like, how do we draw from our background knowledge to properly pronounce these words, to make sure we understand their meaning, particularly if they're unfamiliar words? So as you're tapping into some of those, I'll go ahead and share some of these words with you.
Ebullient,
We have our pronunciation as well as our definition.
ephemeral,
And finally,
garrulous.
so as you thought about what skills you tapped into in reading those 3 words, let's go ahead and talk about the components of early reading. So as we develop our early literacy or reading skills in a particular language, that always begins with that foundation of our home language. And sometimes this also means the opportunity to develop multiple languages. But at the very foundational core is that oral language experience we're having as we're immersed in language. We are receptive of all the sounds and language and meanings around us, especially, as we progress through infancy and early childhood. Eventually, we also engage and participate in expressive language. We also broaden our vocabulary knowledge and listening comprehension. And then beyond that, we continue to also develop what's commonly known in literacy scholarship as the Big Five. These are the essential components of reading. So in addition to oral language, we have phonological awareness, which includes phonemic awareness. So we'll be talking about this in greater detail today, but also that is paired with phonics, as well as vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. So as students learn how to make the relationship between the sounds that they hear and the text that they recognize on print, they're drawing from their familiarity of the sounds and meanings that they've drawn from oral language. So in this way, these different components of reading are very interrelated. Early readers are drawing from these different skill sets to make meaning of new pieces of text and to engage in what the ultimate goal of reading is, of course, is comprehension. So they can have conversations about what they're reading. They could make connections across what they're reading, and ultimately also produce their own ideas and thoughts surrounding that text. But phonological awareness plays an important role in that students or young children rather start to hear and identify some of the sounds associated with that oral language that they grew up with. So in this way, phonological awareness is what helps children recognize the sounds of spoken language. So we can think about phonological awareness as an umbrella, and underneath that umbrella is the child's ability to hear, manipulate, and identify the individual words in a sentence, as well as the syllables within each word, as well as the onsets and rhymes within each word. This is what helps us identify rhyme and the phonemes, and these are the individual sounds within each word. So we'll talk about each of these in greater detail today. But we could think about phonological awareness as a continuum. Although young readers are drawing from all of these steps that we see listed here, traditionally we tend to see students follow a particular progression where they'll master certain areas first, and that will help them then progress into additional areas that they can master. So they might begin with like immersing them. We might begin by immersing students in rhyme and alliteration, which can help them to identify the different words in a sentence, where they can learn how to construct their own sentences and develop those and refine those as well. Also, that would progress to sentence segmentation, followed by syllables, as well as onsets and rhymes. This is where we think about like word families, where students can construct a long list of words based on their understanding of the onset and related rhymes, such as mat, cat, bat, or sap. And then they get to also experiment with the different phonemes in a word. And we'll talk more about what that is as well. So when we're thinking about emergent reading as a progression, an area that we definitely want to immerse young children in is the world of rhyme. And so there are different stages that could be very helpful in scaffolding students' learning surrounding phonological awareness, particularly in relation to rhyme. And the first one is giving them an opportunity to hear rhyme in different ways, in different contexts. In this way, the child grows accustomed to hearing and repeating rhyme. So we want to think about some of the resources we can utilize to really immerse students in rhyme. What are the different ways in which we can expose students to rhyme so that they can hear these unique sounds and engage in recognizing them and ultimately producing them as well? So here are some ideas. We can focus on rhyme with phoneme and substitution and deletion. If we immerse students in nursery rhymes, as well as songs, as well as books that include a lot of rhyme, as you see here with Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. Is Your Mama a Llama is another picture book that's widely utilized. And all of these tend to have a lot of repetition as well as rhyme that can allow students to hear and detect some of these rhyming words and patterns. So we can not only immerse students in them, but ask them to, or invite them to engage in some of these activities where we encourage them to substitute one sound for another. So for instance, if they were to change the k in cow to an n, what would that produce? And we would want the students to be able to determine, oh, that would produce the word now, and so on and so forth. Or we can ask students to delete sound. So if I was to say, okay, if we took the h off a how, what would that make? And we'd want them to say, ow. So inviting them to manipulate the sounds in that way allows them to really master their understanding of those different sounds in phonological awareness. So by allowing students multiple opportunities to hear rhyme and to engage with rhyme, we can also build the preparedness to recognize rhyme. This is when a child can identify two or more words that rhyme. So some examples of activities that might allow students to have experiences with this might include rhyming match games, and important, such as the one showcased here to the right. And what's important with rhyming activities is that there's a lot of visuals involved. So recognizing the distinction between phonological awareness and phonics being where students actually start to see that connection between the visual text that they're seeing and these sounds. Here with phonological awareness, having a lot of really visually appealing and engaging pictures, illustrations, or even hands-on materials can be really beneficial because students are relying on these to help them make the connection. They're still not at they still may not be at the point where they're able to decode actual words, although you could certainly incorporate those for students who are ready for that next step. And here you can also see the opportunity for students to draw from diverse visuals that reflect their own meaning making and experiences. So here you have some animals and some items around the house that students might be familiar with, but you could certainly include a vast array of pictures or ideas that reflect something that's really important or relevant to the student in their household. And then ultimately, we would want students to also be able to produce rhyme. So we want them to be the developers and makers of rhyme. So one example of an activity related to producing rhyme might include inviting students to pick an object and to name something that rhymes with that object. So this is also just another great way to develop hands-on, engaging, or kinesthetic experiences that allow students to go about either the classroom or their household and to make concrete connections between these literacy ideas and their surrounding environment. So we can invite students to engage in some of these games that allow them to not only hear and recognize rhyme, but produce them as well. Alliteration is another idea that helps students grasp understandings of the sounds associated with words. So Animalia is a really great picture book that illustrates some of these ideas and allows students to kind of immerse themselves in these fun patterns with language. So here's just a snapshot of one of the pages from the book. It's actually all listed alphabetically, and each of these beautifully illustrated pages reflects a particular letter of the alphabet. Here we have the letter L, represented by the text that reads "Lazy lions lounging in the local library." And we see these incredibly detailed illustrations that represent the meaning of the text. So each of the pages in Animalia is equally visually appealing and engaging and kind of silly too. So it's a great way for students to see alliteration modeled, and it's also a great way for them to produce their own ideas surrounding alliteration. So perhaps after you read Animalia, you can invite students to develop their own alphabet pages for their own book using alliteration. Other activities might include inviting children to complete a scavenger hunt for items that begin with a certain sound around the room. So perhaps you can invite students to find things around the room that start with the B, and you can develop your own alliteration sentence or silly sentence. You can also invite students to sort items that begin with the same sound, or as I mentioned earlier, students could illustrate or write their own Animalia letter page. You can also use pictures and do like a cut and paste activity as well. Another area of phonological awareness is syllabication. And so one activity that can be helpful is a syllable clap, where you provide students with specific words and invite them to clap out the syllables in that word. So for instance, car, hair, and cup each have one syllable, whereas apple, sandal, and doctor have two syllables. And then we have banana, hamburger, and strawberry each have three syllables. So you can invite students to clap out the syllables in their names or in their peers' names. It could be an activity you can incorporate into your daily routine that allows students lots of opportunities to practice. And for those who maybe even struggle identifying or showcasing their understanding of syllables using clapping, you can invite them to actually put their index finger on the side of their jaw, on the side of their face where their jaw is, and you can invite them to say the word, and they should be able to feel their jaw drop each time there's a new syllable. So for instance, if you take your finger and you put it on your jaw right now, go ahead and slowly say the word banana. And hopefully you could feel your jaw drop 3 times as you were saying the word banana. So as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of activities that promote phonological awareness that can be embedded throughout a school day. These would provide students with multiple opportunities to develop and further refine some of these skills. So let's go ahead and watch a video that showcases some of these examples. As you watch, you might even consider how you would maybe tweak some of these strategies for children who reflect a variety of ages.
Phonological awareness is the ability to attend to the sounds in language.
Give me a word that starts with a Z. Zebra. Go to Miss Nora's table. You can hear my voice, catch a bubble, dip your lip. If you can hear my voice, catch a bubble, dip your lip.
Phonological awareness is one of the best predictors of later reading success.
I know what to say. I like.
For you.
Like.
You. Children who are phonetically aware know that the spoken language is broken into smaller units of sound.
Yes.
These smaller units of sound start with words in a sentence.
And I want you to tell me how many words you heard in that sentence. Are you ready?
Okay.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I like, right there, to play. I like to play. How many words did I just say? How many? Let's count them. Count them.
1, 2, 3.
Watch me.
5.
I like to play. How many cards are there?
2.
How many? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Breaking words into parts called syllables.
Give me a word that's. Oh, you just gave me a compound word. Good, good. Airplane. Remember that was our compound word. Airplane.
Airplane.
Good job.
You ready? School bus.
School bus.
Good job. Good job. Go. Noah. Noah's going to clap his name. Are you ready, Noah? Okay, go.
Noah.
Good job. 2 syllables. Noah. All right, Cole, come on.
And individual sounds called phonemes.
I'm looking for a picture that begins with the k, k, k sound. Who has a picture that begins with the k sound?
He.
Yep. Who has a picture that begins with the s sound? The. Look at, very good. Tyler has a frog. Good job, Tyler. Who has a picture that begins with the s sound? Very good. Amatiana has sock begins with the sound.
Children who are able to play and manipulate the sounds in words by pulling them apart and putting them together are building a strong foundation and developing decoding skills.
Okay, just say the word big.
Big.
What is big without the b sound?
Big.
What is big without the big? Can you do that? Big.
Big.
Big. Now big without the
Egg.
is what? Egg. Very good.
Phonological awareness instruction begins with many opportunities for children to listen and play with sounds.
Yo, 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 yo.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
Phonological awareness instruction needs to be explicit and systematic and taught in both large and small groups.
Close your eyes again. What's down? That's right. Okay, now close your eyes one more time. Keep them closed. Now I'm going to make two sounds. And then I'm going to ask you what you heard first or last. Are you ready? What did you hear first?
Lion.
Very good. We. Lion Puppet, can you say we? Everybody say we. We. All right, you ready? He says, I'm ready. E. What began this sound? What began this sound? Did he? We. What began? Now, M says, we said, we. Thank you, W, Lion Puppet. Y'all give Lion Puppet a big hand for trying. I know a word that rhymes with at. It starts with a P and it says at. Pat. Oh, you guys are smart. I know a word that rhymes with at. It starts with the S and it says at. That. Very good. Give yourselves a big hand. Good job, pre-K.
Daily instruction needs to be 10 to 20 minutes spread throughout the school day. Let's watch as these teachers practice phonological awareness skills. Sue has the children clap the syllables as they line up to go to enrichment. She chooses the words for each child and provides quick support for those that need it.
She is going to clap mud and then line up. Okay, ready? Clap mud. How many syllables? One. Line up, girly girl. Okay, Christian, you're the door holder. Christian, I want you to clap your name, okay? Good job. 2 syllables. And Jalivia, you're my caboose. Come here. Jalivia, clap your name for me. Syllables. Well, let's do it together. Ready? Jalivia. How many? 4. That's exactly right. Good job. Line up.
Margie asks for a rhyming word when they're ready for centers.
Give me a word that rhymes with me.
C.
All together. C. Give me a word that rhymes with cat. All together. Cat, bat.
Phonological awareness practice can be included during small group activity. Jill is working on initial sounds.
Who has a picture that begins with the d sound?
Dinosaur.
Very good. Dinosaur begins with the d sound.
And you have to bring it down when you can go outside.
Who has a picture that begins with the sound?
Tiger.
What begins with the? You're close. What is that? Hammer begins with the sound. Very good.
Work can be quick and simple when interacting with children throughout the day.
That's Scotland. What does Scotland's name begin with?
It's also easy to work on phonological awareness when children are having snack or outside playing. Be sure to look for opportunities throughout the day to practice these skills. Once teachers understand the importance of phonological awareness and embed it in their instruction, children will become their own teachers.
One of the kids came up to me and said, say dish. Now say dish without d to see if I could get it right. So they're just so much more aware of sounds and manipulating the sounds and playing with them, and they're going to be really successful readers.
You will find a variety of listening games and activities that are fun and playful in the Reach Workshop series Read About It section.
So as you could see from this video, there are a multitude of activities that we can utilize to invite students to engage in some of this practice, particularly around identifying, hearing, and manipulating some of these sounds and words. And you'll notice that teachers often coupled some of these activities with visuals that helped illustrate these ideas. As you saw one teacher illustrating onset and rhyme by using her 2 hands, she would say duh and ish. So those are other visual ways that you can help students identify some of these parts. We also want to consider how we can draw from students' linguistic backgrounds and knowledge to help them also foster their phonological awareness across the multiple languages that they're speaking or learning. So we want to think about how we can draw from those experiences and make those connections in classrooms. One example is by drawing from nursery rhymes in the student's home language. So the same way we would immerse students in English nursery rhymes or poems or songs, we can do the same with their home language and invite families to share some or to encourage the student to engage with at home so we can reinforce some of these ideas. So here I have just an example of a nursery rhyme in Spanish. So let's go ahead and watch a little snippet of that.
Pollitos dicen, frío, frío, frío. Voces dos Los pollitos dicen,
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause our song right here. But as you can see, you can invite the child to identify words that rhymed, in this case, pío and frío. In Spanish, the same way you would do so in English. So drawing from the students' offensive knowledge, including their linguistic backgrounds, can be a really fruitful way to reinforce some of these skills across the different languages that students might be speaking and developing. Let's also now transition to phonemic awareness. Again, phonemic awareness falls under that umbrella of phonological awareness. But here, the components that we're focusing on are the individual sounds within a word. So specifically, phonemic awareness is the ability to identify and manipulate the sounds within spoken words. So although the English alphabet has 26 letters, it's actually also drawn up from 44 different sounds. So in this way, the English language doesn't necessarily have that straightforward 101 correspondence in terms of letters. So phonemes, the smallest unit of sound in language, can sometimes differ a bit from the number of letters in a word. So for instance, the word fly has 3 phonemes. We have f, o, and I. Similarly, the word dog has 3 letters as well as 3 phonemes, d, a, g. However, if we were to include a word here that starts with the letter sh, such as sheep, sh makes 1 sound or 1 phoneme. And similarly, the EE in sheep produces 1 sound, and the P or P at the end makes another. So sheep consists of 3 phonemes, sh, E, P, even though we actually have 5 letters here. So again, here we can see the different sounds of the English language. And so why is phonemic awareness important? Well, it helps students learn how to decode or read new or unfamiliar words. So for instance, when a student would come across the word sheep, they would recognize that S and H make a unique sound. So they're prepared to pronounce the sh sound as they engage in that word. Also, phonemic awareness helps prepare students to spell those words. So when a student wants to write the word sheep, they would also know that SH makes the sh sound and be prepared to write that out when they're making an entry in their journal or developing a story. So the research does indicate that students really do need to, it's very important that we support students in mastering some of these understandings around phonological awareness, it really sets them up for success as they continue to develop their reading knowledge throughout upper grades. Phonemic awareness, phonological awareness are also, for that reason, really great predictors of future reading success, because it just really helps students hit the ground running as they start to engage in their reading journey. And it's associated with some of these higher reading abilities. So we really do want to immerse students in some of these activities that are not only so critical, but hopefully also so fun and engaging that we really get students excited about reading and literacy. So here's just kind of a snapshot of what the progression of some of these skills and developments might look like. So as you can see, in general, we start to see students mastering these understandings around alliteration and syllables around the age of 4 or 5. And that's typically followed by some more concrete understandings of phonemic awareness, where we start to see kids' readiness to then decode some of these words in text later by age 7 or maybe 8. But again, each student is different. Each unique learner is different. And we also might consider how students are developing these understandings in multiple languages. But in general, this is usually the progression we might see or help students prepare to achieve. I see that we have some technical difficulties here, so we'll go ahead and engage in some practice later. But I would want to invite folks to think about how they might identify some of the phonemes in a word in preparation for an activity in which you're doing so with students. It can be really tricky. Sometimes some of these words are a little multifaceted, and as we think about and reflect upon our own early experiences developing our reading knowledge, it's helpful to kind of remember those experiences so that we can help prepare scaffolds that are as uniquely refined to the needs of an individual student as possible. Here we go. Okay, so here we have some words, and I'm going to invite you to go ahead and identify the phonemes in each word. So here we have ash, and as you can see, our phonemes are a, sh. Here we have fish. Our phonemes are f, I, sh. The phonemes in dog are d, a, g, and our phonemes in bake are b, a, k. So here we might consider this E a magical E, and it makes the vowel say its name. So it makes a unique sound, in this case, the long A sound. Here we have a word that's reflecting 4 phonemes. We have k, ow, n, t, count. So we can invite our students to identify some of the phonemes in different words, and we can sort these for students or invite them to showcase their understanding of the phonemes through kinesthetic activities and strategies as well. So for instance, one thing we can do is stretch out our arm and invite students to tap the different parts of their forearm as they identify the phoneme. So for instance, if they were showcasing their knowledge of the phonemes in bake, they would begin by tapping around the flexed area of the arm, like that's connected to the elbow, to identify b, and then move a little further down the forearm closer to the wrist to identify a, and then closer to the wrist, tap on their wrist to identify k. So in that way, you can visually see students indicating the b, a, k sound on their forearms. And that's a great way for you, the teacher, to kind of model what that looks like, but then also to quickly visually see which students are following along and mastering these skills as well. So in this way, observation assessment helps us see where students are and to provide them a little bit more support and direction. So these phoneme activities are a great way to kind of support students in developing these skills. Another great way to do so is through the use of sorts. So here you can see, again, we have some pictures that are sorted according to the different sounds in a word, and you can invite students to sort these based on shared beginning sounds or ending sounds or even medial sounds in a word. You can also invite students to blend the different sounds in a word. So if I was to say, okay, here are my sounds, k, I, t, you would invite the student to identify the word you've constructed, in that case, kite. You can invite also students to segment or break up the sounds in a word. So if I was to say, what are the, my word is kite, what are the sounds in kite? They would have to break it down to k, I, t, for you to show their understanding of the segmenting process. So in these different ways, students are engaging with the different sounds and manipulating them in different ways as well. So in this way, they're continuing to refine their understanding of these phonemic awareness processes. So I have here a few more examples of how you can invite students to showcase their knowledge of phonemic awareness through some phoneme segmentation activities. And before we follow this link to a video, I also have featured here an example of the use of alkaline boxes. And so these are boxes that, again, create like a visual representation of the different sounds in a word. So the idea here is to use like a different picture or a picture card that gives students a new opportunity to identify the sounds in a word, and then they can use some type of manipulative, which they'll place in one of the boxes shown here in the alkaline box mat to identify the sounds in a word. So what this would look like is I, the teacher, would lay down a picture of the pig here, and the students would use these cubes to say and mark the sounds p, e, and g. And so they would not only move their block, but also make the sound and then put those sounds together to make the word pig. So in this way, they're connecting the visual with the tactile and the auditory elements of this process to help further refine their understanding of the concept. And you could use the cubes that you see shown here, or you could use like uncooked beans, or you could use goldfish crackers. So in this way, families at home can also invite students to engage in some of these activities to get more practice. So let's go ahead and watch a few more examples of what this might look like.
To do some segmenting?
Yes.
Okay, do pig.
Pig.
Great. Now let's see if we can do cat. Great job.
Box.
Great. How about mop?
Mop.
Segmenting. Pull a card.
Mop.
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 Excellent. Do the next one. Move your tokens back up. Good job. And we'll get the next card.
Bat.
It's a bat.
Bat.
Great job. We'll do one more. Grab the card.
Crab.
Bug.
Bug. Bug.
So in that example, or those examples, you could also see different variations of the alkaline box, as well as some of those kinesthetic strategies. So earlier I was sharing how you could invite students to segment the sounds on their forearm. And in this example, you could see the students were using their head, shoulders, knees, and toes to also segment. So there are a variety of ways that you can invite students to engage in some of these exercises. The possibilities are really endless. Okay, so lastly, I also want to talk about the importance of assessment in fostering phonological awareness, whether it's observation or discussion or some of these more formalized assessment tools that are used. We really want to draw from the data that we have available to see where students might be on that ongoing development of the phonological awareness stages, so that we can support them and provide them with the appropriate scaffolds to help them move further and further along, closer toward their reading goals. And so here I have just a snapshot of the core phonological segmentation test. And as you can see, it invites students to use some different colored blocks or manipulatives to show the number of words as well as syllables or phonemes in some of the practice items listed below. And again, as I mentioned earlier, because there's this progression in phonological awareness, we could kind of see where students are and then develop the appropriate scaffolds. So here are just some examples. In part A, we see the students are invited to showcase their understanding of the segmentation of different sentences. So here, every time you read the sentence, the words in a sentence, in this case, father called, the students are invited to mark these words with their different colored blocks. You can see the same being repeated with syllables, and in the rest of the practice items, you'll see them also segmenting syllables and phonemes. Here we have a phonemic awareness assessment that invites the students to listen to the words and to then identify whether the words rhyme or not. And similarly, it gives us an opportunity to see where students are, to identify their areas of strength as well as their areas of need, which then allows us to see what might be an appropriate strategy or approach to take to support them in moving forward. Here you can just see some examples of the data that was gathered in one particular instance, and you could see here using the data where you might want to begin some of your instruction. So as you draw from that data, you can have a better understanding of students' areas of strength and need, and develop activities that are appropriate for them, and also hopefully engaging to them too. As you can see, there's a variety of strategies we can use. You just want to develop one or a few that are the most engaging for that particular student and have the most impact on their learning. So this concludes our session on fostering phonological awareness. Thank you so much for participating. I hope you really enjoy the opportunity to continue to develop your own knowledge and expertise surrounding phonological awareness and use it to continue to help students to thrive. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.